The G20 foreign minister meet kicks off in the Indian capital. Expectations are high, but chances of a breakthrough remain bleak. While Russia-Ukraine war continues to divide the world, a new US-China spat has added to the woes. So the question is, can India, as the G20 president, bridge those gaps? Can India forge a consensus? The G20 foreign ministers meet could have provided an important forum for dialogue and a possible rapprochement, but far from what is needed, US, Russia and China are all pulling in different directions. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he will not meet his Russian or Chinese counterpart in New Delhi.
Thank you very much.
Second, at the G20, Russia and China will both be sending their foreign ministers. Do you plan to talk to them one-on-one or talk to them in a group setting? And what do you plan to say to them about the Ukraine war?
Yeah. Second part of the question first, no plans to see either at the G20, although I suspect that we'll certainly be in group sessions of one kind or another together.
Moreover, Washington says it expects an overwhelming majority in G20 to stand against what it called Russia's war in Ukraine. But Russia will also be present at the meeting. It has already called for balanced decisions in the forum. So will it be Russia versus the West again at G20? That's the question. Talking about Russia versus West, Germany has echoed the voice of Ukrainian President Zelensky, charting out the prerequisites of a possible end of the Russia-Ukraine war. Here's what the German Chancellor said.
Russland hat die Ukraine angegriffen und Russland ist das Land, das jetzt einen Schritt gehen muss, etwas tun muss, damit ein Frieden auch möglich wird. Und das, was notwendig ist, ist der Rückzug von Truppen.
China, on its part, said it is ready to work with all parties to ensure that the meet sends a positive signal on multilateralism. But in absence of any direct talks between the major powers, chances of a possible rapprochement are very low. But India has a dictum of Samvad se Samadhan, which means dialogue for solutions. But will India be able to act as a bridge between US, China and Russia? Well, that remains to be seen. Now, to give you a clear picture from the ground, our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibbal sent us this report.
Delhi essentially is the diplomatic capital of the world, with the G20 foreign ministers meeting starting. We will see the D-Day tomorrow, where of course hectic negotiations will take place. There are a number of issues on the table. India has prioritized issues like reform of the multilateral institutions like the United Nations, global food security challenges, counter-terrorism, global skill mapping, among other issues. But it's the shadow of Russia-Ukraine conflict that's going to dominate the agenda. The big question is that will India be able to bridge the divide between West and Russia, backed by China, is the big question. We saw what happened at the finance ministers meeting, where of course there was a chair statement by India, even as West and Russia could not agree on the terminology or usage of word when it comes to the ongoing conflict in Europe. Will that happen here in Delhi as well is the big question. But largely India will be focusing on how it can be the voice of the global South. With video journalist Chandrasekhar, Siddhant Sibbal for WION in New Delhi.
For more on this, we have Aman Thakkar with us. He is an adjunct fellow with the chair in US-India Policy Studies at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Welcome to WION, sir.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Aman, the US has taken a hard stance, with Blinken saying he won't speak to his Chinese or Russian counterpart. Do you think this dampens hopes of reconciliation ahead of the meeting?
Well, this is a pretty consistent stance, right, that Secretary Blinken has taken. He has not met his Russian counterparts since the invasion began last February. And with ratcheting tensions increasing with China, and the fact that he canceled his trip following, the spike in tensions following the balloon incident that took place here in the United States, that is sort of a statement and a position that the United States government has taken That being said, I do think that there will be opportunities for discussion, like Secretary Blinken said, in the group discussions that take place. They may not be one-on-one meetings, but in the group communiques and in the group discussions that take place at the G20 foreign ministers meeting, as well as the sideline meetings that take place with other like-minded partners and allies, there will be ongoing discussions about how to move forward and create some sort of consensus in which you could move forward on global issues, not just Russia, Ukraine, but as India will be raising a couple of other issues related to food security, counterterrorism, rising commodity prices, all of those. And I think those will certainly take place at the G20 foreign ministers meeting.
Aman, it seems like the West, China and Russia are all pulling things in different directions. How do you see India's role as it tries to build a consensus here?
Well, I'm going to refer back to something that, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said, that, each country will pursue its own interests and its own side. And in this regard, India, as chair of the G20, has an opportunity to pursue its own interests and its own side as well. And so it will seek to, bring countries together on issues where it can create a consensus. Maybe there's not going to be a solution to the Russia-Ukraine issue at maybe this G20, but on issues like rising commodity prices, rising fertilizer prices, and rising grains prices that have affected not just India, but the wider global South as a result of the Ukraine crisis. Those are the issues that India can raise, try and find consensus on, and find ways for all of the G20 countries to work together on and reach some sort of agreement that not only benefits the global South, but delivers on the expectations that India has set for its G20 presidency.
Aman, that actually takes me to the next question. Apart from the Ukraine issue, there are, of course, other pressing issues like the ones you mentioned, plus climate change, cryptocurrencies, and third world debts. How much would these issues take center stage in deliberations here?
I think certainly these issues are likely to come up. Whether it takes center stage or not will depend on how the negotiations go. It's clear that, the impact of the Ukraine crisis on global issues will start to affect these really central issues of commodity prices and fertilizer prices and grains. So those I expect to be center stage. But climate change, the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has certainly made that a priority of India's G20. Digital public goods and making sure that those are, globalized and, brought to communities where digitization has left communities behind. Those are the issues that certainly India will try and push on. But again, there are 20 countries that need to come to a consensus if there is to be a joint statement. And so it really will depend on how the negotiations play out. But India, as chair, will certainly push some of the themes that it has prioritized, like climate change, like women's development, and like digital transformation and digital public goods, bringing those to communities that have been left behind by the wave of digitalization. Those will be priorities that India, as chair, would like to push.
Thank you for joining in, Aman. Nice to hear your inputs.